So for this section, we're going to be talking about Automation Director. To the conversation we just had around the idea of layering, right? And we'll talk about this as we go through it. There's definitely a layering effect here within automation. You know, you'd love to have one vendor that could automate the delivery of any resource or management of any resource within your environment, but that tends to be difficult to find, especially as you start to get down to some of the more nuanced effects. So the strategy that we're taking with Automation Director is, first, what can we do to automate our own things, but then expand that out, increasingly growing the circle of interactions that we can provide to manage other resources and to automate and centralize resource management of systems within customers' infrastructures. We'll talk about one of them a little bit later today when we get to the data protection component and some of the things that we're doing there. But from a stack standpoint, you'll see here we're doing application-aware provisioning that includes the entire stack. I don't know that we'll have time to hit every piece of this in the demos, but it's definitely something we could record as well. To the point there about future things, about things like how we pull information off of switches to understand what shortest path is, fewest hops are, so that when we're configuring out an infrastructure, we're doing it based on specific requirements within the environment.
So I guess, first question.
Yeah.
Why even build this? I mean, there's a ton of automation solutions on the market already that are pretty mature. Why even... why is this a product?
So this is in product, and Albert, you can probably want to add on to this. It's based on customer demand. So Hitachi loves all of their children, but if a child is not what we need, then that child no longer exists. You know, we are somewhat cutthroat when it comes to that. But based on requirements from our customers and actually having the need for a centralized, how do you automate and roll everything out, you know, we've had a number of requests from customers to actually build that capability out. So that's reason one, where this product comes from, is based on specific customer demand.
So it's specifically, they're looking at the market, and I guess this is where we'll fill in the gap for me. Mm-hmm. The 100 automation solutions on the market, they're saying, Hitachi, we're not seeing these specific features in the market. We need you to build a tool with what features?
Correct. So,
or are these customers who just are so comfortable with you that they don't know that Chef and Puppet and Ansible exist?
Well, I'm glad you raised that point, because it does actually become an important part of the conversation. You want to add on to that real quick?
Yeah, because what I'm thinking, so go back to where does most of the revenue come from? I mean, is this more of a customer cultural issue with Hitachi's base? So is this coming from a prominent Japanese customer base? Because that would also say a lot as to the decisions and where some of that drive comes from.
Some of it is, but I'll be honest with you, and Albert, you may want to tap into this, is a lot of the customers that are actually using this are non-Japan based, and actually they're more Americas and EMEA based than they are actually APAC.
That's more
based.
Surprising then.
Yeah, and honestly, so when I started picking up responsibility for this product, that was something I expected to see as well, right? It was a big Japanese culture driving the need for this. Now, granted, some of it is definitely install base. If you take a look at the historical pattern of buyers, there's a lot of our high-end customers, VSP G1000, legacy VSP kind of things, where you'll see these larger customers. But if you start to look at the pattern over time and how that's been building out in the last several quarters, that actually is starting to move downstream to some of our smaller products. So I would be foolish to deny the impact of large customers influencing this. But we are seeing an expansion of that base, and we are seeing it not as big, maybe not as big as wrong term, but we are seeing a large number of influences outside of that Japan domestic environment that are driving the development requirements to this. Do you want to just real quickly add on
top of that too? I think, automation is such a big word, right? You have compute management, configuration management, automation, IT process automation. There's different areas of automation that I think in the industry that covers different things, where Automation Director kind of came in where we had, I think Manu mentioned the word tribal knowledge. We have admins who are using our CLI and API to do scripting. You know, the guy leaves the company, what happens? So a lot of the discussion was around how do you turn that repetitive task that we do in what we see in our customer base and turn it into a focus around IT process automation, infrastructure automation, which is something that not some of the tools you mentioned are doing specifically. So I think that's kind of where we find a lot of value with our customers. And kind of another reason is we're a tool that we have with our Automation Director is that you kind of tie into our ecosystem. It's not easy for us to control when we have new releases. It's not easy for us to coordinate those releases with the products like HIAA and other systems together.
So there are two other things that I'll speak to. First off is that we also do have a converged infrastructure line. So this does help us there as well, right? You're delivering a converged infrastructure, having an automation product of your own in the back end that you can use to help with the deployment of those components definitely helps out. And I think we'll be talking about that this afternoon as well. But to build on Albert's point, so I talked to a very large customer of ours. It's right across the road from me in Denver. And we started talking to them about their overarching automation demands. And one of the big things they hit on for us was there are things that they can't necessarily do with some of their higher order products that they would like to be able to do with somebody who's a little bit richer and deeper into the infrastructure side. Specifically for them, it was around, and this isn't showing up as well as I like on a black background, but was integration into ServiceNow. And we'll touch on Chef and Puppet. I think we have maybe an example of that in here as well. But for them, it was about having a larger IT tracking system and then having specialized components underneath. So building into the idea of a layered stack, take the best of breed, combine them all together into a bigger package to roll everything out and get everything you need of it. Now, there's always going to be this balance, as you were mentioning, Tim, about more product, less product. And depending on where you sit in the IT value chain and the IT response chain, right, there's always going to be that pendulum shift you're going to have to watch out for. You don't want it to be overly complicated, but you need the depth. So we are seeing a number of our customers being very excited about integrations like this, where we can sit, if you will, in the middle of the stack to provide more fine-tuned value than they may get out of some of the stuff at the very top. So yes, it's a crowded space, a lot of players, and so that's why a part of our strategy isn't just what can we do to automate delivery, management, configuration of devices, but also to be an input into something bigger in the overall value chain. So I'm actually going to pause that thought there. I will actually, I guess this is a build slide. I should say this one last thing is for us, this does really help out when we take a look at the combination of HIA, HID, and then partnering into things like ITSM gives us a better overall structure for the workflow management to make sure that we're taking care of everything. One of the things that I've dealt with in the past is automation tools that just go do automation. And that's really great if you're the people who understand everything that's happening, you're tracking in spreadsheets. But at a certain point, you want governance, you want control. And so that's another really interesting thing here about the ITSM integration is it allows us to provide a higher degree of maturity into overall processes than some companies may be seeing today. So they can actually determine, do I want to allow an automation process to occur? Or do I have a centralized way of tracking everything that's being done in the infrastructure itself? So with that in mind, Albert's going to go through here and he's going to talk about how we build the templates, some of the integration components into ServiceNow, and then we're going to get Johnny back on the phone to actually talk through a demo to show you exactly what that looks like.
Okay, thanks, Nate, for that. So actually, before I get into the technical deep dive, which I'll try to keep it short, is kind of going back to why we bring the product. So again, we have automation is, again, you can Google that. There's plenty of tools. Where I think we, again, started kind of organically with a lot of customers who had the pain point of doing many large data center where they script to different vendors. And then also there's different needs of different knowledge of a storage admin, a network admin, a VM compute admin. So those are typically kind of compartmentalized into different groups. As we work with the different customers, we actually kind of co-created a lot of the template, which is really what we call infrastructure as code, as a way to really standardize on things that typical data center of a Fortune 500 customer would do. And those have been kind of reflected very well in the customer. So again, the outcome for them is, again, quicker time to value. And a lot of times, for example, if a customer spends millions of dollars on procuring our storage, how long does it take them typically before automation to get that onto the data center? Maybe 6 weeks, 6 months. Those are money lost at your depreciation cost. So one of the value, again, automation we see, and the reason we did this project originally is kind of helping some of the initial set of customers and bring those forward. So But underneath the cover of automation, we have, again, the template is kind of where your source codes of how how do you do end-to-end provisioning for a Oracle environment, including Cisco Brocade with a storage together. And those templates are kind of, again, something that we can transfer to different customers' environments. And we also have partners who build based on our customer needs that kind of co-create additional contents that can allow them to customize to the needs of specific customer needs. And once those get into,
and Albert, this integrates with something like vRealize Ops and stuff like that, or?
It's complementary. So we actually have customers who have their own, as you said, they have their own automation tools on top. But what Johnny mentioned, for example, a global active device, which is our active cluster, very popular in EMEA, very popular in the Americas. To configure that, I think typically you would use scripting or different tools set to do that. So we can actually have requests to do, can we do a GAT integration with vRealize or HPOO? Some of the customers have those other tools where they maybe have standardized on. But the piece where the Hitachi piece, which again, maybe 50% of the footprint, where they need a automation tools is kind of where we add those value. We are kind of started with where we do operational efficiency and operational excellence with our products. So kind of we have APIs that they can hook into and do their products. Same with what Nathan talked about ServiceNow. If they already have those tools in place, but they have a missing piece of the puzzle where we can complement that together. Or in reverse, if they choose to use our product as the kind of the front-end service catalog, they can do that as well to integrate with AWS or other systems. And typically those happen with a lot of the private cloud customer environments. So as you kind of deploy the system, it becomes kind of compile code. It's kind of where you have the services become the service catalog. So with that, you can actually present a different target audience, be a set of your HR systems or your finance system. So that's kind of where the multi-tenancy comes in. And finally, as you run the systems, it becomes task and execution. So that's kind of a flow of how we do a typical automation workflow. So again, each one of the templates is kind of a app in your app store. So we have a set of apps that we come out as first-party apps based on best practice of years of Hitachi knowledge and working with our partners like VMware, Oracle, and build those up. And also we have partners that build their own infrastructure automation on top of that as well. So I'm going to go a little bit faster. Again, underneath it, we have a HTML5 interactive developer environment. They can actually drag and drop logics into it and build out really flows that works out very well. So I think one of the things that I think where we find maybe a little bit different, a lot of the automation tools you see today maybe is all code-based, which is great for programmers. One of the things we actually, I think helps out with a lot of the IT admins, where I think a lot of the script gurus, maybe they're pretty good at programming, but then combining that with actually a visual tool is great. So we have, for example, JavaScript and Python script plugins allow a lot of the IT admin kind of take their existing code, maybe they have developed in the data center and convert those into a plugin or a workflow that Hitachi can now maintain. So now every time we release a new product, a new storage or a new firmware, we can qualify that without having customer go back to now retroactively maybe make sure the CLI script works. So I think this become more maintainable if the guy leaves the company, the workflow template still works and being maintained. So again, the depth of the workflow or just any program is kind of as big as you want, as little you want. So we can have a hello world to really a complex workflow, and really we have some really comprehensive workflows along with really the typical provision and new set of data stores for VMware, and also do the SAN zoning into Cisco and have that all connected all together. So that's, again, depend on really the variation of the need on the data center that happens.
So when you're talking about multi-tenancy, there's been cloud mentioned a couple of times briefly in passing. Are you referring to AWS specifically or something else?
So cloud, I would say qualify as private cloud, where I think the Automation Director has, I think the sweet spot is really where customer want to leave their management of the data center on-prem. Obviously, a lot of the system management are on-prem, where they have a lot more command and control and audit as well of the systems.
So which technologies are you using then to support private cloud?
We have, in terms of multi-tenancy and integration, we use LDAP and AD integration, and we have our own technology to partition. Really, we have a way to when you deploy the resource, when we talk about the template, becomes services. When we what we call the compile executable, it's going to really map the resource discovery in the data center into segments of kind of a plot of resource, compute, network, storage you can use to provision your services. And within those, we have LDAP integration where, again, you can have an HR system to have a specific set of service catalog. This is maybe your vegan menu. This is your all meat eater menu. So it depends on the user. You can actually partition that into different apps with different resource allocated in your private cloud to those systems, and those become your resource you can consume from a infrastructure side. And if you actually integrate it with something like a ServiceNow, a business user can also just directly request a resource or set of units, and then it gets consumed and provisioned at the end. So again, all these are tied together with APIs. Again, we have a southbound API where you can do command control and discovery of the systems, the different resources from Hitachi to partners systems. And from the northbound side, we have integration with the different CMPs where they could, again, route their requests, really transfer business requirements into simple requests into automation to really simplify those technical complexities and workflows. And Johnny will demonstrate some of that pretty soon. So just to bring it all together again, really so what, right? So it's about operational efficiency, operational excellence. How do you quickly actually reduce time to market and time to value for IT, and at the end for the bottom line of the customers to bring their system up and running, and maybe save time in terms of and so on and so forth. So again, to prep for the demo. So typically we have our services running in our service catalog. Somebody can use our portal to do all that stuff, and we have some customers who actually use that to more do the DevOps testing. Once they get very comfortable with it, actually mostly use our API to actually connect to their portal. This could be their own internal cloud management portal, or it could be a ticketing system where they can just handle lots of requests within an approval process with, again, really minimum intervention from a operator, where, again, before you had to go to maybe different groups to address a ticket. Now with automation, they can now tie it all together and really to complete the cycle. And to connect back to the analytic advisor, again, really, frankly, automation, I would say, within the data center realm, is kind of complete the last mile of actually doing the job. Where a lot of the insight happens is in those analysis, either in analytic advisor, or you're going to hear about smart data center this afternoon. A lot of the discovery and actually the coordinating the resources and kind of almost like a reservation system, identifying those intelligence and then mapping those to the automations, kind of completing the picture of really taking insight into action and complete those to really make the data center more efficient.
So maybe we'll touch on this in the afternoon, or save the conversation for the afternoon for time's sake. I'm still not seeing the differentiator between this and other automation tools. Unless this is acting as an API gateway, which is what I kind of heard you say, and I can't do these things directly via Chef Moffitt to Hitachi pieces of equipment, I don't know why I would want to segment my automation engineers to say, hey, use Moffitt and Chef for all of what we've been doing for cloud and everything else, but for this subset of my private cloud, use Orchestrator to do that, unless I'm not getting exposed to APIs directly to those components. And maybe it's a bigger play with the whole suite of products. And I'm seeing that you guys are doing an API gateway to that whole suite of abstracted products and solutions that we'll get into this afternoon. I don't see the differentiator. I mean,
Let me try and sum that up a bit, because that was a whole lot. I think one and kind of add in my perspective on it. Number one, it's not clear to me what the cloud offering is. That's a whole nother conversation. But number two is, I think the only people that would be interested in this is a Hitachi customer that doesn't want to go outside the Hitachi ecosystem.
Yeah, it's the same basic question you asked earlier. Why do I want this from my store?
Right.
From my
Right.
infrastructure
I think
vendor.
I think it would be simpler to start there and then branch out. Because it would answer your question, right? Straight on.
Yeah,
So
I still don't see why. Yeah, I don't see.
But the answer before was because this tool can see in more detail than things like Chef and Puppet can.
Well,
that's true.
that becomes if we're talking about modernizing the data center, you modernize the data center to be a cloud-based data center, and I should integrate with Puppet, Chef, and all of these open source tools first. If I have to buy a proprietary tool, that's not a modern data center.
Well, you're also
Well,
starting
what if
from the
you-
top down. You're not going from the bottom up. This is taking an approach of the bottom up. I'm into the Hitachi ecosystem, and I'm adding another component on top of it, the automation piece. But those that are truly modernizing their data center, they're starting at the top and going down. And that's where Chef and Puppet come in. Because you're going to be looking at a broader ecosystem of products to be able to automate out into public cloud, into different public clouds, for example.
Because we haven't gotten into the
Beyond just
conversation
on-prem.
around Kubernetes and making all these calls. I don't want product sprawl.
That's right.
It's deep rather than
Yeah.
broad,
That's right.
but it's only deep for that particular section. So
Yeah.
But what, can I just make trouble here? Do you mind?
sure.
We like trouble.
Yeah, we like
trouble. That's the job. That's what. What if you need to see the detail that Hitachi says you can only see with a tool like Puppet and Chef?
that becomes the
Kubernetes
problem.
can't see. Sorry.
That becomes the problem. Participate in open source
So
that I can see the detail in the other tools. Send the telemetry data to those tools so that I can see that detail.
Because
Well, then, I think the fundamental question to ask is if you need to see that much information about
You're not using-
Somebody had to
infrastructure,
build it.
you're asking the wrong question.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's
The right
right.
question is what actually matters to your user, and that's application that's above the line.
That's right.
And we're talking below the line.
It's
Well,
the
there's-
user
Give
experience.
that user that experience. You need to see you need to get down in the weeds.
No, you don't.
No.
No, absolutely not. Because if you're working at that level, you're also probably considering things like public cloud where you will not get that level of depth. And you don't care. All you care is the experience. You're coming back to up-leveling the conversation, right? You don't have to get
as
into
a
the
customer,
weeds.
you don't care that the pipes are leaking. As a plumber, I care.
Yeah, that's what I'm.
But
yeah.
but on the other side, if I go with Puppet, Chef, Ansible, I can have relatively high confidence that the product I haven't even thought about buying yet, that I'm going to buy 3 years from now, will come with some plugin for that platform.
So let me try to answer a few things. So Automation Director kind of exposes, you could call it the API layer, to all those tools that you're talking about, kind of exposes Hitachi management to those tools, right? And a simplification layer. So I can have my experts, everybody has storage experts in their environment. I can have that storage expert set something up in Automation Director and then allow it to be consumed across many tools or through novice administrators or anything like that.
Oh, no, and if you're talking about a gateway, then that there's value there.
So we didn't build it to take over the data center automation. One key component, another factor of this is simplification and modernization of Hitachi's management tools.
So, question there, from where the data center is going, I don't want a storage expert.
Exactly.
So
And here I am, unemployed again.
I am trying to fire Howard. That is my goal.
Wow.
Is
Not the first.
order, and something about the shirts that just rage. So I guess the question becomes and we'll get into this afternoon. This is why I'm kind of punting this. Is what makes Hitachi value? And I'll try to be succinct. What makes the Hitachi so valuable that I want a gateway to these products? Why not go with a solution that tells me that I don't need a gateway to get the same value? Where's the value?
Yeah, the value in this is us trying to simplify our deployments and management and everything. And there's other tools around that, but this is our version of doing it. And there's one other key factor that we haven't talked about is the fact of as we develop new technology in our storage platforms, some of that is very complex. Global Active Device, amazing product, can be very complex depending, and it varies from customer environment to customer environment. So as I do that, I can go into our traditional tools, which was the command suite, and I can go to engineering and say, customer X and Y, they want a workflow around this, and negotiate from a product management perspective is what I do, and take months or not years sometimes to get a solution of a workflow into the core products, or I can take a day or a week and do it in this product. And so from a product management perspective and a quicker and more agile time to market, this is a core component of our management suite going forward. Because simply I can do that. I have everything with the APIs. I can go off as product manager, instead of going to that engineering group that I want building those cool features in my storage platform and exposing them through APIs, I can get anybody to write a workflow, right, with the proper knowledge. Some of those may be the customers as well. So that's really the core premise that I see in this product and the value of it. It's not meant to take over and compete with Chef and Puppet and Ansible. It's certainly integration friendly to all of those. ServiceNow is something we focused on, OpenStack. It's really what we're doing to try to modernize our management suite and make it more consumable and easier to use.
And as long as there's enterprise storage, I mean, this is the thing. I mean, people are buying enterprise storage still. People are using enterprise and deploying on-premises storage environments. I am not going to throw stones at anyone that's making that easier to use and integrate and automate, even if it's maybe not Chef or Puppet or anything. I mean, I feel like, any step forward toward integration and automation, even if it means the death of Howard and me, is a good step.
But it's unemployment. They weren't talking about capital punishments.
I think that
need to get to the
Stephen,
demo.
I think
see
the
sign
thing
here.
is
So
that
I do want to get us there.
I agree with what you say in concept, but where I'm having trouble is in following it and the approach.
Okay. And and if the approach is wrong, then approach it right. But I think that we definitely need to automate traditional infrastructure as well.
Well, I think the other thing too, right?
Well,
is if you could do it all from Chef and Puppet, we wouldn't do it, right? I'd love to say we have infinite budget. We don't. Go put our development resources somewhere else. But we're getting requests for this, and as a matter of fact, we're seeing gaps with other infrastructure providers where they're saying, you have an API interface, can you go use it to manage third-party vendor X that's a competitor of yours? Part of that centralization.
Close to encouraging people to mention a faster horse metaphor. Customers, sure they're asking for it, but are they asking, and they should be asking for it?
But if customers are still using horses, then a faster horse is actually a good solution.